Well, hey there. Welcome to another episode of Sage Studio. I'm Tiffany Webster, and today I'm welcoming back my guest, Prendergast. She is one of our counselors here at Sage Oak, and we are in the middle of a podcast series about matching students. You say it, Quirrell, matching students to the right college.
College match. So finding the right fit for you in the college that you choose.
Okay, I love this. And she is such a wealth of knowledge. If you didn't get a chance to hear our first episode, go back and watch that when you're done with this episode. And you can find a little bit more information about how do you really discover your own interests? What are you looking for out of a college? And what are you ultimately wanting to learn about yourself so that you can find the right college that offers those things? Now, today in episode 2, we're going to take those results and use those results to match us with the right college that offers those same things. Do I have that right? Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Quirrell. She's going to walk us through her presentation and guide us through the process of how we get to finding the right school.
Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen. So the second part here is, what are you looking for in a university? So when you start to think, now we know who we are and what we are interested in, our abilities. But now when I start to look at the college, what's important when I'm looking at the college? So it's going to be to find out these different areas. So what kind of size are you interested in? Do you want to go to a really big school? Do you want to go to a small school? What kind of class sizes are you looking for? What about location? Do you want to be, close to home? Do you want to be far away geographically? Do you like the sun? Do you like it where it rains more? Are you okay in the cold? Every year, I have kids and they'll go off to college and they'll come back and be like, they came home after one semester because they hated it. And they're like, it's freezing in Nebraska. And I was like, what did you think was going to happen in Nebraska? These are that types of things.
Yeah, that is actually a legit qualifier. Can you handle the weather of the school that you're looking for?
Absolutely. These are important things to check out. You definitely want to know, what kind of activities do they have on that campus? What kind of clubs or sports or different things like that? Is it a very strong academic environment? I know for myself, if I would have gone somewhere like Yale or Harvard or something like that, I would have drowned.
Mm-hmm.
Academically, that's not where I would want to be. I would be too overwhelmed. But for me, I wanted somewhere a little bit more social, maybe D2 athletics, not as hardcore academically. So taking all of that into consideration is really important. What the cost is it affordable? And I'm going to talk about cost a little bit in here because we don't want to rule out just because of cost. That's a big problem that people do early on, something that definitely needs to come into play, but more of a later decision, not right out of the gate. Big name schools, a lot of people will Google best colleges and it's UCLA and that's where they apply, when really when you get down to the nuts and bolts, that might not be a good fit for your personality or for your academics or things like that. Believe it or not, co-ed or single sex is still a thing. There are still colleges that are single sex and people might want that or not want that. So it's definitely something to factor in. Or dorms. Some people will have dorms that are co-ed and some people aren't comfortable with that or that are separate. You've got to look into all of those things because you want to make sure that you feel comfortable with where you're at in life.
I love that you're bringing up all of these different categories to think about or, criteria to think about, because I think sometimes we just say, oh yeah, this is what I want. I want to go to college. And what I might be thinking and what you might be thinking could be totally two different versions of what college would look like and feel like, and campus size and location and weather and all these things. But we maybe don't necessarily consciously break it down, right, to what our vision is. Like we have this vision of college, but we're actually not breaking it down to, oh, that must mean I want to attend a large campus, or, oh, that must mean I really want to attend a campus that is where the weather is great. And so to take the time to really break it down by these factors, I think is really important because, like you said, the worst thing would be to get, all the way down the road and do all that it takes to get into a college only to get there for a semester and be like, oh, I'm freezing. Why did I choose this? So,
or I hate the food, that's important for crying out loud if you have to live there.
Right.
And how hard is it to get into that college? You know what I mean? Depending on your academic, like where your GPA is in class rank, is this a good fit for how hard it's going to be to get in? So this is a great resource right here. If you guys click here, it's going to take you to explain each of these different areas, the pros and cons to both sides of every one of them. If you want to live in a city or if you want to live somewhere rural, it's going to talk about the pros and cons to all of those. And then it has you rate them and ask you questions specifically about those. And so it's just a really great resource. It's a fillable PDF that you can work on with your family to just talk about what is important when I start looking at this. So it's a great resource for you guys to check out all these different things.
It really is such a helpful tool. I mean, I can just tell you from my own personal experience, like when I was going into school, I really wanted to have that college experience, right? I wanted the big football team, the big basketball team. I wanted a campus. I wanted a college town. Like I wanted everybody to be as excited about being on that campus as I was. And I loved it at first. And then I realized that going to a school like that, my classes were impacted. I had to wait sometimes to get the classes that I wanted. Some of my beginning classes had like 500 students in them. And we kind of talked about that a little bit in the first episode about trying to figure out, what feels right to you. And I was the same way. I'm like, I just can't quite learn in the way that I want to with these types of factors. And ultimately, I changed courses. I decided, you know what? I'm going to move my next year into a smaller campus where I can have fewer people in my classes. I can get the classes that I need because for me, it was really important to graduate in 4 years because I had other plans. I wanted to move on and do other things. And so, it really is worthwhile to take these factors into consideration. Doesn't mean you totally have to get it right. And you might get there and discover new things about yourself that you didn't realize at the time where, I didn't really think that the food was going to matter as much as it did, but I really miss, this other type of foods. Things like that sometimes can play a bigger role than you anticipate. So just being aware of these things and taking some time to think about it ahead of time, I think it's going to really help our students. So I love this resource.
And that's why we wanted to put this resource together because this is something I do every year with students. So for me, it's like secondhand knowledge. This is your first child going to college. These are things you haven't probably thought about, you need to think about.
So true.
Why I'm excited I've done a lot of research from all different places, all different books and websites. And so these are different college planning websites. This is where you should be spending some time after you figure out, okay, I want a medium-sized school. I'm okay geographically with this area. I want more city or I want more rural. These are the things that are important to me. Then you start using these different websites to search them. So on these websites, you'll be able to click on size of school, major that you're interested in, all of those things, and it'll narrow it down for you and show you, okay, here's a list of schools. You can search by state. So say I'm looking for a school in California that has a certain sport, that has a communications major, and is a medium size. I can put that and it's going to narrow it down for me and say, here's your list of schools to start looking at. So it's a really great way. Any of these you can click on. They're all linked out. This one, the California colleges, I've already created all high school students a account. You just have to register your account. So if you're in one of the college and career junior or senior seminar classes, you've already registered it with me. But if not, I put directions right here on how to do that.
I love that. Thank you. That is such a helpful resource to our students to know, okay, this is already set up for you. All you have to do is take advantage of the resource that we're handing you. I want to just ask this question for a second because I think a lot of times we hear like how hard it is to get into college. And we think that our list is short, right? We only have a few colleges on our list. And I know we're going to get into that a little bit later about putting your list together, the ones that you get into. But if a student wants to go to college, is there an option for them? Is it possible? Are there a lot of colleges to choose from, or is there not a lot of colleges to choose from?
There are a ton of colleges to choose from, and there's a good fit for everybody. It doesn't matter what kind of student you are. I'll just share, I wasn't a super strong student, and I didn't have a high GPA, so I started at a community college for the first 2 years and took all my general education classes there, and then I was able to transfer to a 4-year university. And that was a great fit for me. Also, I don't think I was mature enough to live in the dorms and live on my own. I think that would have been a nightmare for me, and I probably would have failed out. So it was a good fit for me at the beginning, but there's CTE programs in the community colleges for trades and specific skills and certificates. There are transfer paths if you need to start there with your GPA and transfer out. And then there's all different 4-year universities all over the country that have different strengths and are looking at different things. And I think let me see if I have it on here. I thought I had a map. Oh, I do. Can you guys see this if I put it right?
Yes.
Guys, here are all the colleges. Look at this.
Whoa. Okay. That is a great perspective.
Yeah. So you can find somewhere that's a good fit for you. And I want to encourage you, sometimes we get in our little bubble of California here, but there are 500,000 seniors graduating from California every year. 500,000, which means that's a lot to pile in these schools right here. There's some really great options outside of California, and we'll talk about that when we're building a list, but there's some really great scholarships that really make out-of-state tuition not as scary as some people may think it is. So definitely there's a fit for everybody somewhere.
I'm so glad you said that because, yeah, and this map gives such perspective. It's like we tend to think of maybe only the UCs or the CSUs because that's in our neighborhood and they happen to be really great schools. And I think that those are really great options, but they're not the only options. And boy, does this map really send that message, right? Wow, there are a lot of different choices. So maybe in this process, going back to one of those attributes, growth mindset, maybe a growth mindset starts with, hey, I'm going to be willing to consider options that maybe I didn't even know existed, or maybe are beyond what I thought was going to be my comfort zone. Maybe I'm willing to go somewhere else if I discover that it's going to be the right fit for my interest, what I want to get out of college, and some of these things like the size, location, weather, all those other factors. So I love this, Coral. You're really giving us some great tools for figuring out what's going to work. Okay.
I always tell kids with perspective too, if you're looking, say you're looking in Northern California and we live in Southern California, that could be an 8-hour drive where Arizona could be a 3-hour drive from some of us. So
good point.
Take you it's okay to think outside the box a little bit, especially in your initial planning stages. These are different schools that have what I'm looking for. Keep an open mind, definitely.
Well, it's something else that you mentioned that I think is such a great point too, is that once you go through this process, you might discover, you know what? I'm not sure jumping right into a 4-year is even my plan anymore. Maybe now that I have a better idea about the size of the campus and where it's at and cost and all those things, maybe that's something that I'm going to be ready for in 2 years from now. And I'll start by taking my general education at a community college, knowing that's the end game and where I want to transfer to. Yeah, I think that's a really great point and a really great option for students to be able to kind of think about it in those terms. Virtual is another thing too, right?
Yeah,
so many of these programs now, they offer virtual courses and you could either complete your entire 4-year degree online, or maybe you do some of your classes or a year or so and then you move out. So a lot of different choices there. Loving it. Okay, what's next?
Okay, so then once we kind of look at the different colleges, we know what's important to us and we're navigating, narrowing down, what that's going to look like. I did put a couple of extra things I want you to think about. Is there anything else that the college could provide that you want it for your academic goals? So this is something that I had never thought about till I was reading this book. And it talked about if I need really quiet spaces to study, but it's a place that maybe the weather is, sometimes rainy or stormy, like it's in a geographical place that has weather that I'm not used to dealing with, I'm not always going to be able to get to the library. So do the dorms have a quiet place that they've set aside, or quiet hours, or am I going to have a single occupancy? Those kinds of things. Think about how you're going to study, when you're going to study, what that looks like, and what's feasible with that. Because this is something I had never thought about, Do I have time in my dorms where there's quiet hours where I will be able to study if I can't get to the library?
Oh, that's such a good point. My niece goes to school in Seattle, Washington, right? So she's grew up in Southern California. That's all she knows. Now she goes to school in Seattle. It rains cats and dogs all the time. And this has actually been a factor for her. She's like, oh, do I really want to put on all my rain boots, put on my jacket, grab my gear, and brave the weather just to get to the library? So it is a legit factor. I'm so glad you brought it up.
And then also, you want to be somewhere where you're going to be challenged, but not overwhelmed. So looking at that academic rigor of the college, am I going to be able to get my best grades there? Is this an environment where I can learn that fits my learning styles? Is it hands-on if I need hands-on, or is it lecture hall? My sister can read anything and memorize it. She has that graphic memory where she can just read it and be like, yeah, that was halfway down the page on the left side. I am not like that. Touch it. I need to interact. And, what is your learning style? And does this campus afford for that?
Right.
And then where are you going to feel comfortable? Where are you going to fit in? Are you going to meet friends? Making sure if different people that are in your ethnic background or religious background or culture look at those numbers and see, is that a place where these people are? Or is this somewhere where you're going to get there and say, I feel totally alone because people don't think like me or people don't act like me, which it's always good to, broaden our horizons and meet new people. But there is
Sure.
also a sense where you do want to feel like you fit in as well. You have commonalities with people. So those are things to kind of consider. And then, do they have office hours? Are you going to feel comfortable talking to the professors? And if not, what does their tutoring program look like? Do they have smaller groups where you can kind of interact with people? These are all things that you can ask. The admissions counselors, you guys, on college campuses are like your concierge at a hotel. They are the ones that are going to know everything, and they are going to be able to tell you, hey, this is what you need to like dial into over here. This would meet your needs there. And when we talk about college visits, like they're the ones that you want to call and kind of schedule stuff with too, because they know all the answers. That's their job, to know everything about that campus. And don't hesitate to call them. They're like your car salesman for the university. They want you. They want to talk to you. They want to answer all your questions. So reach out to them with any of these informational things that you need.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I do feel like sometimes we put this, I don't know, this expectation on ourselves. Oh, we're supposed to figure out everything on our own, or we're supposed to walk into that college campus having done our homework, done our research, and know what we're talking about. But it's also been my experience when I, would call colleges on behalf of my students and say, hey, we're just curious to know about this things that you just mentioned. Do you have online tutoring that students can tap into, or are there office hours, or all of those different things? And you are right. They actually love helping you. They love answering your questions. That's what they're there to do. And they like to make sure that you know everything that their campus offers, that their programs offer. So I think that's really good advice. And it's coming from a counselor. So it's true. If a counselor is saying call the counselor, call the counselor. They're going to be your best resource for knowing that program and that campus the best. So thanks for that advice.
So the next thing that you need to consider is how much it's going to cost. Obviously, this is a huge deal with your family. College is going to cost. It's a big investment. But there are also a lot of different ways to pay for it. And so within this presentation, I linked out to a parent webinar that I did earlier in the year. And so looking at grants and explaining the difference between Pell Grants, Cal Grants, Chafee Grant, Promise Grant, all those different things.
Okay.
When you have the names up here, it's going to take you to that portion of the presentation. And you can click right here, and I've already recorded it all for you.
Amazing. I love it. Again, this is why Coral is so amazing. She's so resourceful, and she's made it so easy for you to really workshop this information, not just sit back and watch a presentation, but she's giving you the tools that you need to get in there and figure out what's going to work best for your family. So I love that.
So there's different grants, there's different scholarships. Some of them are merit-based just because of your good grades and the things that you've done, or some of them are needs-based if you have a financial need or are lower income with your family. And then there's private scholarships, which I send out to the seniors. I have a live document that I add stuff to every couple weeks that they can apply for. There are loans, and I explain the differences between the different types of loans here that you should be aware of. And that all starts with filling out your FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. And so I walk the seniors through that step by step. There's a presentation here as well that will walk you through that. But just know at this stage in the game, yes, you need to consider the cost as far as how much things cost, but don't weed out colleges at this point because you think they cost too much, because you won't really know your financial aid until about this time of your senior year, March, April. And then when you start to get your acceptances, they will also give you your financial aid package. And you may see that something that had a really high price tag initially, because of the scholarships that you might get, it might actually bring it down lower than a state school. People always want to rule out private schools right out of the gate because they're so expensive. But they have a lot of university aid, we call it, which is their actual college giving money out. They have a lot more than that than the state schools do. And so sometimes it can actually be cheaper. Like I said, sometimes out of state can end up cheaper and things like that. So don't rule it out, but be aware of it at this stage.
Great advice. Thanks so much for that, Coral.
And then this is a bunch of different resources for you that you can link out to search for different scholarships. A lot of these search engines, they're free. This is what I want to say. Please do not pay people to help you find scholarships or to help you fill out your FAFSA. There's a lot of people out there, it's like scams, or they'll take advantage of you and say, oh, if you pay me $200, I'll find you a scholarship. Well, they're finding you the Cal Grant or things like that that you're already going to get automatically anyway. There are so many great search engines that are free, and I put them here, that you fill out like your bio. You just go through this huge long survey and, this is our family income. This is how many people live in our house. This is different things about us, your ethnicity and your activities that you're involved in, sports, all that kind of stuff. And then it'll tell you basically, here are different scholarships that you qualify for. You should fill these out. And so really use these free ones, or use me as a resource that I can help you find some, rather than paying somebody to do it, because that's my job.
I've heard also too that sometimes families will treat this as a job for their senior. So rather than having their senior go work at, a coffee shop or a fast food restaurant, they'll say, okay, instead, your job this year is to just research all the different scholarships that you would be available for, and tapping into Quirl would be totally allowed. You could use a resource like Quirl to help you do that, because the money that you could potentially earn as scholarship money would probably be more than you could earn just working in a fast food restaurant or at a coffee shop trying to save for school. So sometimes I know parents look at it that way. They're like, okay, your job right here is going to be to just go find those scholarships, because all the money that you earn with those scholarships could really have a big impact on the financial burden of going to school. So
absolutely. And a lot of these you can start earlier than senior year. A lot of these scholarships, they'll take sophomores or juniors, and a lot of them take an essay in order to apply for it. So that is going to be a different series that I do on writing your college essays and all of that kind of stuff. But definitely preparing for that now. Start working on an essay that's basically who you are and what you've done while you're in high school. That's the gist of what most of them are, but start working on that now, because you're going to need it. So that's a great thing. And then there's also different calculators. So like Big Future, Sally Mae, they have different things that you can calculate the cost of school. And you should be if you put in your income and family size, it'll tell you you'll probably qualify for these different grants. And so that you can kind of estimate and see what things might look like. So these are just tools and links for you guys to kind of start exploring that. But I help you with that senior year a lot. So don't worry about it. And then you need to work on your college admissions profile. So this is really taking a long, hard look at your transcript and who you are as a student. And so I have created a worksheet here for you so that you can say, okay, check mark, and it gives you a score here on the right side. So if I've taken 4 years of English, I'm going to have a 1. Okay, and that's good. So looking at trying to accomplish 1s in every area is going to make you really competitive for college.
Okay, so we're working backwards, like golf score here. We're aiming for low scores. Okay, I gotcha.
Low scores. So you're going to look at this and you're going to go through and say, okay, because at the end of this, if you're starting this in 9th or 10th grade, you can still make adjustments to your classes, right? You can sign up for that dual enrollment class that's going to give you the extra GPA bump. You can start, it really makes you start thinking, oh, I should take that extra lab science. Oh, I should take that 4th year of math, especially if I'm going to an Arizona school, because they want 4 years of math. Really evaluating kind of what you're putting out there on your application. And so this portion's on your classes, and then we go into your class rank, which if you don't have your class rank, you can talk to your EA or you can email me and I can give it to you. And then your scores, oops, sorry about that. And then your scores, I know this is something I wanted to talk about, is that most schools post-COVID have gone test optional. So they're not requiring the SAT or ACT for a lot of the colleges. Cal State's and UC's being 2 systems, but also a lot of out-of-state colleges. However, I'm still going to recommend that you take it by the end of your junior year, because a lot of schools, while they might not be using it for admissions, they might use it for financial purposes. They might say, if you get this on your SAT, we're going to give you $5,000 more. Or if you're looking at this specific major, like a math major, and you can score this, your admissions it's gonna help. You know what I mean? So some of them, it might be connected to different majors or financial need and stuff like that. And
that's important to know. So I think, financially, it might be worthwhile for you to take the test, because if you score somewhere in a certain level, then that could turn into scholarship dollars. Also, class ranking, I think I've heard too, right? That for placement or ranking purposes?
Yeah, it's definitely important. Yeah. And then this looks at your extracurricular activities. So looking at what have you done when you're in high school? Are you in sports? Are you in ASB? Are you in newspaper? Are you in volunteer work? Are you working an actual job? And then what would people say about you? This is kind of funny, because that does go hand in filling out your college applications, is what your letters of recommendation say. So where do you think you would be here? And so this is just like a worksheet, and you guys are going to go up here, file, make a copy, and then you can edit it, and this can be yours to play around with. So that is building your admissions profile. So how likely is it that I'm going to get into this college? When I'm being really realistic about who I am academically, extracurricular activities, my class rank, when I look at all of that, what schools should I be applying to? And then, here's the activities and experience log. So I've also created, you should be tracking this. So when you click on this, what's your activity? What years did you do it? How many hours? This is all stuff they're going to ask on college applications. So if you're starting this in 9th or 10th grade, start filling out this log now. Start thinking about what creative work have you done? What are your hobbies? What are your interests? This is what you're going to have to write about on your college application. So it's good to start thinking about and planning for this now. And if you're not involved in any of this, now's the time to start getting involved in this, right? You're going to see kind of what they're looking at. So you can start saying, I think I better start some volunteer work, or maybe you should, travel or do things that I have to write about on my application. So this is a worksheet for you to go through on there.
I love that. That, again, so helpful. And by the way, if you do not have a folder in your Google Drive yet that's totally dedicated to college prep, I would get one of those pretty soon. As I'm seeing all of these great resources that Quirl is creating for you, you're going to want to be able to store them in a place that you can easily go back to them, access them, add more details. So just make it simple for yourself. In your Google Drive, create a new folder called College Planning. And then all of these worksheets that you are working on, you can just put in there. And then that way you'll know where to find them so that you can edit them, update them, or, recall them if you need to upload them for any reason to somewhere else. So good to know here. Okay, we're stacking up the resources, Quirl. I love it.
Okay, so now I want to transition into building your college list.
Okay, so we have gone through the process of figuring out who we are as a student, what our interests are, what we want out of a school. We have gone through the process of what do we want from a school, what the size is, what the location is, what we want the campus to be like. And now we're figuring out all the ways that we can figure out, okay, how are we going to match those attributes to another school? And we've also looked at the huge map to realize, wow, there are a ton of schools out there. So now it just becomes a matter of taking what I want, matching that with the school that offers that, and then choosing from a shorter list. Do I have that right?
Right.
That was such a great training with Quirl. And now in our next episode, we are going to be talking about, now that we know about all the different possibilities out there, how do we narrow it down to just our top 20? And what schools should be on that list? Quirl's going to be breaking it down in the next episode.